In this section, we will be working on CSS display property. The display property specifies how an element is displayed. Number 2, the display property can be used to control the layout. Number 3, every HTML element has a default display value depending on the type of element it is. Lastly, the default display for most elements is block or inline. What is a block element? The block element always starts on a new line and occupies the full width available on the page. The example of a block element is the paragraph tag. Also, we have the div tag, and we have our h1 to h6. So these examples I just stated now are the most used display block level elements that have been used. Meanwhile, there are other block level elements we have, but I'm going to be using these 3 for the course of this illustration. Number 2, what is an inline element? The inline element does not start on a new line. It only occupies the width required. It doesn't start on a new line. It occupies the width required on that particular element. The example of the inline element is we have an anchor tag. We use that in creating a link to other HTML page. Also, we have the image tag. We use that in creating an image on our HTML document. So let's quickly move on to an illustration we have in the course of this section. So we are going to work firstly on the block property. Now I'm going to use an illustration we have on this particular web page. Now if you look down to this web page, we have an image right here. So, and I said in the explanation that the image is an inline element. Now I'm going to use the block element, the block property, to make this particular image in a block element. So what are we going to do here? We go down. Okay, let me take off one image. So let's see that. Okay, so better still, we can still use that, but I'm going to take off this break tag. Okay, now let's go down to our tag, our CSS file. Then we use the selector img. Now we're going to use a display property, and we're going to use the value block. And also I'm going to take this to the center. We're going to use a margin. and the first one we give it a 0 and the second auto. So the first one is the top and bottom, then the second value here is for the left and the right side. So basically I'm working on taking that image to the center. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so do you see what just happened now? The image right now is now at the center of this page. Is at the center of the border. So that's how the display block actually works. Another illustration I can give here is, for example, we have let's try to take this, make this copy and paste this. We have page. Let's take this off. What's next? Let's just do that. Okay, now we have 3 anchor elements right here, and this anchor element, it's an inline element. Now I'm going to use the display property with the value block to take this inline element to the block display. So let's check this out. Okay, so we have next page, we have page, and we have what's next. Now if you look down here, they are all on a straight line, so they are all an inline element. Now what are we going to do? We go down to our CSS file, we use the anchor tag, display block. So let's go back to our page and load it right now. So you see it's displayed on a block. So we have one stacked on each other, the other stack on each other, taking the full width of that particular, taking the full width available, okay, on that line. Now that's it about the display block. So right now let's move on to the inline. A very good illustration for this is using the list. Let's go down to our browser. So if you look here, we have a list item slated here. So we have this is a list, and they are all displayed in a block element. Now we are going to use the CSS property display, and we're going to give it the value inline to take this particular block element to a inline display. So what we have here is a block element. Then let's go to our CSS file. We have stated here UL LI. Okay, so we are selecting the UL and the LI. Now I'm going to use the display property, then the value will be inline. Okay, so let's move on to the browser and refresh. So you see what has happened now. So formerly it was stated to be a block element, but right now, because of the CSS property display with the value inline, it's now on a straight line. Okay, So what we have now is an inline display. It's no longer a block display. You can still take this back to what it used to be. We can use the block back, and you see it will take it back to what it used to be. Okay, so the reason for this illustration is for inline, so we have to take it back there to the inline display. So that's it about the CSS display property, which is the two main property for CSS display is inline and the block value. Thank you for this section. Meet you in our next class.